Oh, our next speaker has been with Toastmasters over 11 years. He's been an officer in his club. He's been a division director, and he just finished his year as district director. He appreciates all the opportunities Toastmasters has given him over the past years to learn and grow as a leader. He's seen many changes within Toastmasters, but also in his personal life. He started a business, sold a business, changed careers, and now he's decided that he wants to start building an off-the-grid lifestyle. He'll be telling us about his adventure and how it started, and let you know where they are now and what the future holds as he and his family begin to build their homestead. Off-the-grid life decision. Immediate past district director, distinguished Toastmaster, our very own Jeremyha Lyle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you all today, but I'll be honest, I have a confession to make. This past Monday, I was insane. And I mean that because I have been insane since about the time I turned 18 and I started college. And what I did is I got in my car and I decided on Monday I needed to drive to LA. Have you ever made that drive to LA at 7 o'clock in the morning? Well, it was a lot like the same drive that I made at 18 to Orange County. And it's the same drive I've been making for about the past 20 years. And let me tell you a little bit about this insane drive. A lot of it is start and stopping, maybe somebody cutting me off, weaving in and out of cars, trying not to get pulled over by the cops, and maybe a few choice words as I get upset while we're driving. How many of us have had that kind of life, where that's what we do? And that becomes just an everyday thing that we think is, hey, it's just part of what we do for work. It's just where we go. Well, I thought the same thing until last year. Last year, me and my wife were talking, and we've had the very fortunate opportunity to be able to go see my in-laws over in Arizona. They're just far enough away to where they don't come visit too much. That's the real key to make it nice. But the great part is we go see them in Arizona, and last year, me and my wife made the decision that we were going to buy a house. And we were going to buy a house in Arizona, and we were going to vacation out there. And we were going to be able to enjoy the nightlife and just enjoy the relaxation. Well, we started looking at houses and we found some that we liked, and they were beautiful houses, great areas, but then we started talking. It just wasn't what we wanted. We wanted something more, but we weren't for sure what. Have you ever been in that position to where you know that you see things and you know what you want, but you're just not quite for sure why it's not right? And then about 3 months ago, I went and saw a friend of mine in Williams, Arizona. And we pulled up to his property. And Williams is the place as you kind of go through as you're going to the Grand Canyon. And as we pulled off the dirt road to pull onto the property, we start pulling into his 40 acres. And about as far as you could see was what you could see of his land. And all of a sudden, me and my wife looked at each other and we said, this is for us. We weren't for sure what we needed to do. We weren't for sure how we were going to do it. We just realized that that was the piece that we were missing. So we got back in the car after that visit, and we decided that we were going to look into living off the grid. And that's the decision that me and my wife made. And it has been a whirlwind recently of decision after decisions and where to start and who to talk to. And today I want to be able to just take you through our journey and show you a little bit about the place that we're going to. You see, last month on the 16th, I actually closed on my own 40 acres. We are over in the middle of nowhere, and you're going to be able to see some of the property. But not only do we have our 40 acres, but behind us, we have 600 plus acres of state land. So I can go hunting, shooting, or just go for a walk in 640 acres of good old gun-toting Arizona. But let's go ahead and start this little journey. And now whenever we talk about actually going off the grid, there's things that people think about. And people think about, well, just getting there. Well, let me show you the road to our property. This is the road. It's a little bit different than what most of us would imagine that we're taking to. This is right off of the freeway. As soon as you get off, you actually start on this down on this dirt road. And we are 30 minutes on this type of dirt road to be able to get to our property. As you can imagine, this is not something that you just drive around and go find a place. So one of the very first things that we did is we actually went out, we had to go find a realtor that specialized in this. And we, thanks to technology, had the great ideas as we were looking on realtor.com and looking for properties. We just looked for the guys who had his truck in every other picture. And we called him up, and this was the track that he took us to our property. But now one of the things that you have to remember is resources. Because as I said, we're 30 minutes off the freeway. We're an hour and a half from the nearest Walmart. So it's not just driving down the street to go to the grocery store. But then the next thing that you'd have to see is this is the well. This is actually how we get water to our property. You see, nowadays, you think you just go to your kitchen and water just automatically comes out, or you have a little bit of plumbing things. On our property, we're actually one of the fortunate people to where we're in an HOA in Arizona. We're on a rancher's land, and we actually own this property. And then what's going to happen is we actually, with these wells, we have 4,000 gallons a month that we're able to access. And all we have to do is drive 15 minutes on this dirt road and cart this to our property. But what this takes is a lot of planning. And we're going to get a little bit more into the planning. But now, my pride and joy is this is the view from the first 100 feet of my property. You can actually see our vehicle in the front of that picture. But this is the view that overlooks. And on our property, we have beautiful junipers and pinyon pines. And as I said, this is only the first 100 feet. And I'll be able to show you in a little bit of where we're actually at on this property. But you can see we overlook that whole area. And the plan is we're actually going to end up flattening this area. And this will be the start to our home. And I'll be talking a little bit later about our home that we're going to be building there. And then this is actually our property. So if you look right on the screen, what you'll see is on the very far, on my side, it's the right corner, but it's right towards where there's a bend in the road. That's actually where we took that picture from. So our property, each property line goes back, on one side it goes back 1,000 feet, and another one it goes back 1,700 feet. And then just behind us is that state land. So you can imagine there's plenty of room for us to be able to really enjoy. And one of the other great parts about this is we actually have on the front corner of our property a hill that's 100-foot rise and 100-foot drop over 1/4 mile. So you actually have just a little bit of a plateau to be able to enjoy an overview of the entire valley. Now, some of the things that you really need to be able to know if you were ever looking at something like this is actually what a survey plot map looks like. And we're going to be talking a little bit about these. But you can see this actually gives you the distance and this gives you your plot lines, and it also tells you your lengths of each one of those. So we actually did a drive based on this, and it's about 1 mile all the way around if you drove the property line all the way around it in this angles. And that's important. You want to be able to know, because that's where you really have your access. And we're going out over the holidays to actually fence off all the corners of our property. So that way we can be able to have it clear defined. But then probably the most important thing is your topographical areas. You can see right here in the topographical map, the part about this actually tells you what you're going to be looking at. If you look at those numbers, you see where it says like 5460? That's actually where we took that picture from. If you go to the line back, it's 5480. So that means from there, from the 5460 to the 5480, there's a 20-foot increase in the property, which goes all the way up to the 5500 on the very back corner of that. And that little hill that I was telling you about is that dark circle over on the left that kind of sits between my property and my neighbor's property. But that has a 100-foot incline on that for us to be able to build on top of. This is important because you want to be able to know where exactly and how you're going to be able to sit on your property and be able to have your land on there, because you want to be able to know if you have any major drops, because there were some properties that we looked at that had some pretty substantial drops, and some of the planning actually comes into effect. Since we're looking at going off the grid, a lot of what we're going to be looking at is septic tanks, water, and different things to be able to make sure we have all the necessities that we have. So all of this comes into play, being able to understand your elevation. So over the course of our entire property, from one side to the other, is 100 feet from one side to the other. And in this right here is actually a layout. I was really trying to figure out, whenever we were looking, what 40 acres was in relative to our house. And it's 7 blocks. This is a layout of the property but based off of where we currently live right now. So just to kind of give you a reference, if you were looking at like different cities and how big 40 acres actually is. But then the fun stuff. See, I spent many years working for an architecture firm. That was actually my first job. It's my passion. I love architecture and designing homes. So the greatest part of this whole process is I get to design our home. So as you start going through, we had to start figuring out, what did we want? So what we have here is we have 2 sets of plans. We have our guest house and our primary house, because we have to figure out how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, showers, anything that's going to be able to require water, that's going to have waste. We have to make sure that we have figured for our septic tank, because that's the information that the county needs for that. And it all starts by hand drawings. And I have to tell you, I haven't had to do a hand drawing since I was in high school. And that was back in 1998, was whenever I was in high school. So it's been quite a long time since I had to pull out some graph paper and a pencil. And I was still kind of rough, but we're able to make it through. But then after you start doing all of your drawings, then comes to the actual architecturals. This is actually the architectural drawings that I'm currently putting together. Our hope is, this is our guest home. It's going to be 320 feet of a container home. Has anybody ever heard of a container home? You may have seen it online, seen some TVs. What this is we're actually going to be building our house out of 40-foot containers that they bring from overseas. We're going to end up cutting into those, framing those in, and it's going to be a completely still building. But one of the important things that I had to have here is I had to have stairs. And I had to have stairs because I want to be able to sit on top of my containers and overlook the valley. But you can see, so we started going through and doing the designs and figuring out how we wanted to build this. Because ideally, we're going to be submitting, hopefully, to the city for our septic tank and our permit in January. So that way we can be able to start building. Because hopefully, if everything goes well, we're going to be able to celebrate my 40th birthday next July out there. That's the hope. And then, as I was talking about, this is a container home. Now, looking at this, you can't even tell it is. But this is actually built with this is built with a 20-footer and a 40-foot container with a separation between the 2 of them that they've just framed in via sticks. And this is the kind of house that we're actually looking at building. And you can see how you still see the container markings on that. The amazing part about these is they are completely, basically impervious to any kind of damage. Whenever you start looking at water and rain, the only big thing you have to worry about is any kind of rust for steel. But it's important whenever we started looking at things to be able to find something that was going to be able to live the lifetime that we're going to be out there. Because our ultimate hope is to actually move out there in about the next 13 years. And it's important that we really be able to have something that's going to be able to be able to last for us out there. And lastly, I want to be able to make sure you know that you can follow us on our journey, because we have an amazing journey set up. And I'd love for people to be able to follow us. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. But then the reason why I wanted to tell you about these is because the question is why would somebody want to do this? It seems a little off. It's a little bit different. But the reason why is freedom. The reason why is the slower pace of life, the community and the people. We've had an opportunity to be able to meet some amazing people out there while we've already been out there. I have friends out there, and I listen to them talk about the pond that his neighbor built that they just put catfish in. I listen to him talk about the cattle that comes grazing through or the elk that runs through his property at night. Those aren't the things that we get here in Redlands. I listen to him talk about the snow that he gets. And snow's something that I never saw till I was 20 years old in Canada. So it's a different way of life. It's a different way of thinking. And it's an opportunity for my children to be able to live this. Because we spend our lives in the everyday hustle and bustle. I still, to this day, I've always said that the one thing I love about California is I do love the California money. And it's the one thing that's kept me around. But there's a point to where is it really worth it? And that's what's really started this for us. That's what started this journey. And this journey is going to be something that's going to take us many years to grow, and we're going to have a lot of lessons to be able to learn. But I'm really wondering, where's your journey taking you? Because you see, we're taking that leap, but is there something you've been afraid to take that leap on? Because if there is, don't let something stop you. Whenever we started this, I had some people tell us we were a little crazy for doing this. But the more we talk about it, the more we find people are interested about it. Because sometimes what some person finds crazy, other people find inspiring. So I hope that you go and you take that leap. You take that leap and you decide that you want to live the best life that you can, wherever that is. And I hope that you will join us maybe one day on our homestead, because we'll have plenty of room for all of our Toastmasters family. Mr. Toastmaster.